Now, the three things I'm going to talk about in this video have literally changed my life because they've allowed me to become a professional artist for the last 15 years, and people actually want to learn my techniques and apply it to their own art. So without these things, I don't know where I'd be, probably still in a factory working somewhere. Now, the first one that really made a difference was me learning to take my time. I was doing oil paintings way back then, and I was finding I must have been rushing through it just to get to the end and to start a new painting. And what I did one day was I looked at my finished painting and I thought, hang on, let's treat this as my underpainting. So I'd spent, say, 5 hours on it, which was typical for me back then. And then I decided, okay, I'll pretend this is like an underpainting that someone has given me, and I'm going to try my best, no matter how long it takes, on top of this layer, building up multiple layers to do it as good as I possibly can, no matter how long it takes, as I said. That was my best drawing or best painting actually, by far, that I'd ever done. And that one took probably twice as long. And I realized for me to get that much better, sometimes it takes a lot longer to actually complete the art. Okay, so I know this sounds simple, but so many of us these days are rushing all the time with everything we do, and then that just rolls over or spills over into our artwork as well, and we're not doing the best possible artwork that we can. Okay, so tip number one, lesson number one is take your time. When I started taking my time, I got much better literally on the very next painting. Now, the second thing that really got me a lot better quicker was using the correct supplies. Not so much when I was doing oil painting. I was using the good oil supplies straight away. But with pastels, this was an absolute game changer. I was using different types of papers. I tried lots of things, and all my drawings were literally rubbish. Then a friend of mine recommended for me to try pastel mat paper. I tried it, and all of a sudden I could do the things, the layering, just like oil painting. So without that paper, without initially using pastel mat paper, I definitely would not be doing pastels right now. Okay, so that was a big change for me. So I would only recommend, if you're doing the techniques that I do, and I got lots and lots of videos on YouTube and Patreon, use one of only two papers: pastel mat paper and Canson velvet paper. That's a new one that's come out. My favorite paper for pastel mat is light blue color, and my favorite for the velvet is one of those mid-tone grays. So without a doubt, use the right supplies. Don't scrimp and save on supplies. With pastels, the pencils are definitely not as important as the paper. Now, the final tip or technique or lesson is the one that made a massive difference literally overnight when I started applying it, whether I was doing graphites or oils or more lately pastels. And that was the way that I was checking the colours, assessing the colours between my reference photo and my drawing. So let's go over to the easel, and I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. So what people want to know is, how do I go from a reference photo such as this to a drawing like that? How on earth do you start? How do you know what colours to pick? Okay, now that's the thing that improved my oil paintings literally overnight, and then I took this same principle to my pastels. So what do I actually do? Well, I test my colours against it. Now, the reason I do a printout and suggest my Patreon members, my students, do a printout is so that we can easily do this. Okay, the printout, I try to do life size, as in life size to the same as the drawing size. And then I get my spare pieces of paper, the same color that I actually use for the drawing. I know this is not sexy, dramatic and all that while you're learning, but this, I promise you, made probably the biggest difference of all. Or you can use a paper punch, okay? Use your pastel mat paper, put a hole in it. I don't really do that often myself, but you can do. And then go to your supplies. Look at the color you're trying to match. So let's say we're trying to match this brown color. Okay, I go to my supplies, I look for my pencils, and I try them out. And I can instantly see. And that's the beauty of this this type of test. Although our eyes and our brains can be confused when we've got a plain piece of paper, say we're doing the drawing over here and we're trying to match up the colour and we think, oh, that's close. When we do it like this, you can see it's miles away. This takes away the confusion from your brain and the fact that we can be making mistakes. It's instantly noticeable if the colour is close. Now there, I don't know how well it's coming up on camera, but I can see that's way too red. And you just keep picking your colours until, you know, you get something that's close. Now what I normally do, I don't do holes in it. I go to the edge like that because I can just move a little bit further. And all I really do is just carry on like that. So I can go to my supplies and say I'm thinking I need to go darker, so then I'll go with perhaps this one and I'll try that. And I think that's close, but perhaps it needs to have a little bit of orange in there as well. And I can put that on top. And that's how I match my colours. It really is as simple as that. If I was doing it with the blue, I could do exactly the same. And I could say, yeah, that's really close. But it would always show you, let me just pick out a different blue. So let's say I thought with my pencils, that looks pretty close. When I'm putting the paper there and I go over it, I can see it's literally miles out. It's way, way too light. Now, this may seem like a bit of a fiddle and a hassle to do it, but it stops your brain from being confused, as I said, and it trains your brain and your eye to start to see colours more accurately. And that's the thing that takes you from being a complete beginner to a novice to being advanced, especially if you want to do realism, is training your brain and your eye to actually see and compute the correct colours. And it's not something that you can just get a formula with and do this overnight. You've got to practice it. But what I found was years of painting, as I said, I plateaued. It was as if my brain wouldn't compute correct colours anymore than I'd got to at that stage. And when I started doing this, all of a sudden I was getting the right colours and the right tonal value. That's the lights and darks. If we think of the grayscale from white to black, that's also super important. And this, by default, helps you to see those. As I said, I know this is not a very complex part of what you would think would be the solution. It's not got that sexiness to it, but it really, really does work. And I'm sure if you start applying this, I've seen lots and lots of my Patreon members do it. And let's say you're working from an iPad, you can do exactly the same. You'd put it against your iPad, check your colors, and then get those correct colors and go to your drawing. This literally did, as I said, these 3 things changed my life, allowed me to be an artist. I'm really grateful to be able to do that job, and I hope these tips are going to help you too. I'll see you all on the next video.